NBA Straya. How are you going? Hey again. I hope you're right. You should be. Why is that, Jim? It's Hump Day. February 26 all day. Exciting times. I'm your host, James Clements, of course. Big one in Larry Armour's studios today at the Luka Doncic revenge game against the team that stupidly traded him. That was very fun. Lakers Mavs was everything you wanted it to be, right? Apart from like a Lakers loss, basically. We're going to wrap up the rest of those games as well very briefly. Give out the usual awards. We've got quick NARS, got the Australian Player Watch. We've got a big preview and everything for tomorrow. We'll do a great moment in NBA Australia stat history as well, with a dramatic retelling of the Andrew Gay story from yesterday. I'll also throw in a standings check. I promised this one yesterday. So after, maybe after the game wraps, we'll jump into the standings check just to let you know where everything's sitting, which is very interesting. So, without further ado, trying to speed this up. Oh, geez, gyms are working? I don't know. But let's get into it. Episode 1213 of NBA Australia. Let's go!
This is Josh Giddey.
G'day, this is Andrew Gay.
This is Jack White.
This is Joe Ingles.
This is Darcy Daniels.
This is Chris Anstey.
This is Matthew Delvedova.
This is Shane Hill.
Hi, this is Ryan Brockhoff.
This is Mitch Creek. This is Nick Kay.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And 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 you're listening to NBA Australia.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening and watching NBA Australia.
This is NBA Australia. Let's do it.
Watch out for the shark attack.
You better, I'll tell you that much. Why is that? I don't know. It was pretty funny today. Outside of that, let's get into it, shall we? With the daily. Oh, it's a whip round. Better turn that one up, Jim. Just try it again. Yeah, there you go. Pretty happy. Yeah, let's do it. Not a giant amount of news today. Nikola Jovic, he hurt his hand the other day. If you're watching that Heat game, he's actually now out for a month. Bit of a tough one, but you get that on the big jobs. Nick Claxton got suspended a game after a flagrant. And Woj, if you really want to get hardcore in the weeds nerd, he's apparently auctioning off his phones that he used to break stories so he can raise money for the NIL. Name, image, and likeness for the athletes there at St. Bonaventure. St. Bonnies. Cool. That's like the phone that he used to break Kawhi Leonard and Paul George during the 19 off-season. The one that he used during the 23 draft, including them, taking Wemby there at number 1. Sure. If that's your thing, go nuts. And there was another thing yesterday. I didn't bang on about how crazy that Wolves OKC game was enough yesterday. Like, it was absolutely nuts. And I should have been banging on about it way more. But it's kind of like the Wolves. They just do this. But when you sort of get back and remember, it's like they were down 24. I'm like, I mentioned this yesterday. Down 20. It's insane. 25, whatever it was. It's like the biggest comeback in franchise history. But as you dig into it more, you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, they're up 121-105 with like 3 minutes 55 to go. Up 16. Wolves go on a 16-zip run to close out the quarter. They tie the game. They go to overtime. And then they win it in overtime. It was absolutely nuts. Like, it was so fun and so good. Right. Fun and good. Are we going to describe a couple of these games today that way? Probably not. Boston took care of Toronto with no zinger. Oh, where's the extreme zinger meal?
The extreme zinger meal.
No Giroux holiday. Is that a bit of a holiday? No Al Horford. This is basically then just going, we can beat the Raptors in Toronto with our hands tied behind our back and just with like Tatum, White, and Brown, and we're fine. And they were. Derek White had 22, Brown 24. Tatum was handy, 19, 6, and 11. 20 for Peyton Pritchard. Sure. The Raptors, look, we picked them to cover the line, and they did. They still lost by 10, 111-110. Boston now 42-16, feeling pretty good. And the Raptors 18-40. Then we had pretty tremendous beatdown, if you ask me. Cleveland. This was rough.
Cleveland.
Just smashed Orlando. They lose, ask Cole Anthony at one point, but it just came from everywhere. Orlando have, the offense is horrible. They made 19 threes, Cleveland. And, up until later on in the game, the Magic had only attempted, 19. They ended up attempting 28 and they made 5. It's weird how little shooting this team has. And they don't seem to really care. Balabancaro took 7 threes, but ends up with 26, 5, and 4, but shoots 9 of 22, 9 of 21 for Franz Wagner. They're the only two players the Magic got into like double figures. It was a 122-82 beatdown. As I said in the video this morning, like, this should have been a good game. This was a playoff series that went 7 last year. Orlando are completely off their tucker. They're not 29 and 31. Cleveland, that's right. Cleveland! Keep rolling, 48 and 10. Then we had a cracking Milwaukee-Houston game, 97-100. The Rockettes, hold on, down the stretch. It was just a rock fight down the stretch as well. 27 for Giannis, 22 for Dame on 22 shots wasn't enough. You had, Amen Thompson getting booted. Bit of a weird one, but, happens sometimes. Our man Jock, we'll talk about him in the Australian Player Watch. Not a great game, but 23 and 11 for Alpi Şengün, 25 and 5 made threes for Jalen Green. Very handy. But this team still misses Fred VanVleet, but this is a big win for the Rockets. 36 and 22 now. Bucks, 32 and 25. You get that one of the big jobs. A Phoenix-Memphis. So that game was awesome. And, gets right down to to the end of it, and they sort of hold on, and it's like the Bucks just did not quite have the offense to get over the hump. It was a 15-12 fourth quarter. It was just an absolute rock fight. And, they were tied with 2 minutes to go. And you're like, oh, my God, Houston are going to blow this. Nah. Alpi gets fouled a couple of times. Kuzma misses a 3. Giannis has a sick dunk right at the end, and Jalen Green just makes his free throws. So, pretty crazy gear down the stretch, but good job by the Rockets. Same thing sort of goes for Memphis and Phoenix. Now, that was a defensive struggle, this one, 197 Bucks Rockets. This, the opposite, 148, 151. I'm no math magician, but I think that's 299 combined points. Goes to overtime, and away they went. KD with 26, 8, and 7, 28 for Booker. Bol at 28, 3, and 8. He was unreal. He was blocking, deflecting, everything. Can't believe he only got 2 blocks, technically. I reckon I saw him change 4 shots, deflect a bunch of other ones. 24 and 11 for Brad Beal. 21 for Grayson Allen. Hit 6 and 9. Nice from downtown. But it wasn't enough. The Grizzlies were unreal. Jalen Jackson fouled out, but he was good. He had 28 and 6. He had 29 from Ja, despite going 1 of 12 from downtown. Brutal. 25 and 9 for Desmond Bane. But everywhere. The Grizzlies, what an awesome shootout this was. They came flying from absolutely out of the clouds. They were down 10. And at the end of the third quarter, and ripped off a 13-1 run in exactly 2 minutes of game time. And Phoenix are just like, what are we doing? This is just horrible. So, yeah. The Suns are a write-off. They're an absolute train wreck. They're just los horrible. I'll tell you that much. Los horrible. Whereas the Grizzlies, that was a big win. They needed that one. They got it at home. 38 and 20. They are rolling. Good win by Ja. It's the shooting was off. He shot 7 of 25, but sort of just did enough everywhere and got that runner in the paint to get it to overtime. KD misses the 3 to win it. And here we are. The Pelicans took care of the Spurs 109-103. Sure. I kind of called this one yesterday. Trent Memphis. CJ McCollum is back now. He had 13 and 5. He shot 5 of 14. Zion at 18 and 6. They've just got a little bit more talent with the Spurs missing Wemby and a bunch of other dudes. So they've got Vassell and Fox and Chris Paul. They fought. And they got out to a flyer, 30-16. But yeah, Pelicans hold on to win it. They're now 15 and 43. Spurs, 24 and 32. Oh yeah, and by BT Dubs, 27-31 for the Suns, 38 and 20 for the Grizz. It's crazy. The Suns are so bad. Charlotte got absolutely smashed by Golden State, 128-92. The Hornets are a write-off. I'm going to talk about them in a second. Steph has 15. He didn't have to do anything. They went 15 to 40. They couldn't hit a 3 early on. They were still killing him. Buddy Hield finishes with 16, but still, what are we doing? No Taron Armstrong either yet, which is a bit of a shame. Come on, get him out there, Warriors. Get him out there. Warriors now, 31-27, Hornets 14-43. Then the big one. Dallas and the Lakers. Awesome game. 99-107. The Lakers win it at home in front of the Spurs. All the stars were out in Hollywood. So there's Kareem. That's cool. 35-21. That moves them too. I'm going to get to this in the standings check. The Lakers are here. It's nuts. It's crazy. They just keep winning. The Mavs, a bit of a disappointing game. They just never could quite crawl in front properly and assert themselves. The Lakers, and this is the fear, when you get Luka bloody Doncic on your team, it's like, at some point it'll click between either him and LeBron, And in the fourth quarter, LeBron had 16, put him on his back. Luka had the sick oop to him, and you're like, oh yeah, this is unfucking fair. What are we doing? Luka ends up with a triple-double against his old team. Nico Harrison, just getting, like, thank you, Nico, from the LA Lakers. Love that. That's just good heckling. Austin Reeves had 20. He was carrying them early. And then LeBron goes, whack, later on, 27 and 12 for him. The Mavs, look, Clay was a little bit handy. He had 22, hit 5 threes, but Kyrie was the headliner. He had 35, 7 and 4, 3 steals. He was absolutely showing out. Hit 5 of 11 from downtown as well. But the Mavs, I mean, they just have no bigs. And when you're trying to, like, wall off the paint with, like, a combination of PJ Washington and Kessler Edwards, you just can't do it. And, I don't know, Dante copped a big knock late, as I talk about in the Australian Play Watch, but he couldn't hit a shot early, got going a little bit late. But Spencer Dinwiddie, it's just useless as tits on a bull, I'll tell you. 31 and 28 for the Mavs. Kind of saw this one coming. Lakers 35 and 21, 107-99. Big win for them. Right, so that's the wraps. Let's do some awards, then we'll do the standings check, I reckon. So let's do it. NBA Australia's approved performance of the night.
That's not a night. That's a night.
Luka bloody Doncic. He had a triple-double against his old team. It was insane. He didn't shoot it great. He goes 6 of 17, but he had an awesome 3. He's throwing behind-the-head passes. He had 19, 15, and 12. It's just ridiculous. 3 steals, 2 blocks, 1 of 7 from 3. You just like go, sure. It doesn't matter. The quality of the shots that he's creating for the rest of that Lakers team is just absolutely absurd. Like between he and LeBron shot 11 of 17 because he's just always there, right in the guts of the bucket, and Luka's finding him. Reeves is finding him. But yeah, Luka, absolutely amazing gear. He was unreal. How about Bol? 23 and 8? Question mark? No? Nah? And Kyrie, honorable mention, 35, 7 and 4 in the face of some adversity. And I like that a lot. Good games. That was some fun one. And then Ja versus Booker was pretty fun too, but still. Not that great. How about Spud of the night?
Spud, 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 it is Spud of the night.
Oh, Damian Bow. 2 of 13. Brutal. 0 of 4 for our man Jock Land. I'll talk about that later. 2 of 11 for Miles Bridges, but I can also just say all of Charlotte are just spuds. They've lost their last 3 games by a combined 131 points. It's just brutal. But otherwise, Ja Morant from 3. 1 of 12 today. Brutal. Dame Lillard, I mentioned this very briefly. 7 of 22 from the floor today. 22 points on 22 shots. Kobe! Absolutely love that. But the Hornets are horrible. We're going to talk about them in Pantsing the as well in a second. But I would very much like to thank another Hornet, though. Because Nick Smith Jr., what did he go and shoot, Jim? Oh, yeah! Woo! Yeah! Chill, he went and shot 311. Thank you, Nick Smith Jr. Hey, who's old mate no mates?
Old mate no mates.
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 Who's got no mates today? Well, it's probably Nico Harrison, who just spent today getting dunked on by bloody everybody going, can you believe this moron gave Luka Doncic to the bloody Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 1 draft pick? What a dunderhead. This dude is a fucking exhaust smoking dipshit, basically, is what everyone's screaming out. And Nico's like watching Luka, and I've said this, I think I was on Twitter, right? He 100% looks like the divorced dad who's just gone, all right, fuck it. I've got divorced. I'm going to get back into shape. And then suddenly he's hit the gym and he's like fucking pulling smoke shows left, right, and center. And he's like living his best life. Luka's just like, fuck that guy. Like, that is, look at me now. I'm flying. Nico Harrison. Thank you, Nico. Also, old mate, no mates. Paul George. We've shown no sign of a team that will compete. We just don't have the habits of a champion or a playoff contending team would have. To be honest, right now, it's a little far-fetched. It's the banana costume meme. We're all trying to find the guy who did this. Gee, Paul, why do you think you've shown no signs of being a team that will compete or have the habits of a champion? Is it because you're shit? I think it's because you're shit. I think it might be. Yeah. We're all trying to find who did this. It's you, Paul. It's you. And the other one was probably, I love Jason Tatum. Just having a bit of a sook about him not being the face of the NBA. I don't really want to insert myself in things that can be debated. Did he win a championship? Yes. Did he win gold medals? Also, yes. Was he always a part of winning seasons? Was he first team All-NBA? Those are things that you know are hard evidence, yes or no. Face of the NBA, they can always debate, but it's like, I check off all the boxes. Do ya? He's got zero. Like, when you're fucking complaining like this as well, it doesn't add to your aura, Tatum, you idiot. He also went on, honestly, no. If you took the name and face away from all my accomplishments and you're just like, this is what player A accomplished at 26, people would talk about me a lot differently. I don't know. How about you just be fucking interesting for once in your life? Seriously. Yeah, he's a fucking wet cloth of a bloke. It's just, you've met him. You've known him. And you're like, you're just nothing. Like, so, oh yeah, he's kind of fun to be. No, he's not. He's just there. So, he's a really good worker. Yeah, I'm sure. What are his hobbies? Fucking stamp collecting? No offense to stamp collectors out there. I'm sure it's a noble pursuit. But Jesus. Fucking like watching paint dry. Anyway, pantsing the night. I mean, this is also Nico. Like, Luka doing push-ups while Nico's watching. Fucking amazing. Luka also hitting a big three, then looking towards Nico and giving him the old fucking stink eye. Love that. But the pantsing of the night is the collective just ineptitude of the Charlotte Hornets. What is going on here? They've lost their last 3 games by a combined 131. I mentioned this, right? It's going to be one of the very worst stretches in NBA history. They've lost by 53 to the Blazers, 42 to the Kings, and 36 to the Warriors today. It's an average of 43 points. It's just a constant pantsing if you're a Hornets player or fan. They're the only team as well that's lost 3 times to the fucking Wizards. Absolute pantsing gear. What are you doing, Hornets? And finally, better than Lonzo Ball / Bronny James / Ben Simmons.
Lonzo was the best player in high school. He was the best player in college. You think he'll get to the pros and be like, I made it to the pros, now I can be average. He's coming for everybody.
Coming for everybody. Ty Jerome. I sort of gave him a bit of love the other day, but he's absolutely unreal for this Cavs team. He's like the sort of bench guard that they've not really quite had at a consistent level for ages. He's been unreal this season. 20 points, 7 of 12 from the floor, 4 of 6 from downtown, 2 of 2 at the line, a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists, and a steal. Weapon. He's just their sort of little do-everything, just combo guard that does a little bit of everything. He's awesome. I love me some Ty Jerome. Good stuff there. All right. Let's take a quick break, come back with the standings check, then do some yeah-nahs right after this.
This is Cam Glidden.
This is Anthony Drimmick.
This is Mitch McCarron.
This is Jason Kadee.
This is Darryl McDonald.
Hey guys, this is Hugh Greenwood.
Yo, what's going on? This is Illy.
This is Mark Worthington, or commonly known as Wortho, and you're listening to NBA Australia.
You listen to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA
And you're
Australia.
listening to NBA Australia.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
All right, let's do it. This is where we usually do yeah-nahs. We'll do them after we do standings checks. Check. Let's start out east. Cleveland remain on top. That's right.
Cleveland!
48-10. Looking very, very, very nice. They're crushing it as well. They're 22-6 against teams above 500. They're looking unreal. Boston. 20 and 10 against 500 teams and above. Not quite as good, but still. Doing very, very well. They're 42-16 overall, Boston. They're on a very nice tear. What do they won? 12 or 13. The Cavs have won 8 straight. Boston's won 6 straight. They're both absolutely flying. Very clearly the top 2 teams in the East. You can almost lock away those 2 seeds at this point as well, because the New York Knickerbockers of New York City are 37-20 now after a couple of back-to-back losses over the weekend, right? They were a weekend loser on our show the other day. 37-20. That means they're 4.5 games back of Boston, who keep kicking their heads in. So I don't think they can really probably chase them down even at this point. 57, 58 games into the season. So it's like Cleveland, Boston 2, 1-2. Knicks 3, and then probably Pacers. Well, you can basically lock them in ahead of the Pacers as well, because they're 4.5 games up on Indy, who are 32 and 24, and feeling pretty good about themselves as well. Surprisingly good home team, 16 and 9, doing all right with the points per game, but it's more like they've had a nice little run, Indy, and as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be a dangerous sort of like. I don't think they give Cleveland too much of a run in an eventual 1-4 matchup, but still, they're going to be frisky. Number 5 is the Milwaukee Bucks. They're a half game back. Losing today was a bit tough for the Bucks because that puts them a half game behind Indy, 32 and 25. There's just sort of remaining questions about the Bucks and sort of like the wing depth, but I think they're going to be okay. Like Kuzma gives them a fun sort of wrinkle. He can do a bit. Middleton was cooked. The defense is going to be where it all sort of coalesces, though, isn't it? If it's not there, it's going to kind of stink. 6, you know it's there. My beloved Detroit basketball Pistons. Detroit basketball. 32 and 26. They've won 7 on the trot for the first time in over a decade. It's awesome. And they're only a half game behind the Bucks and only 1 game behind the Pacers. Can we get the Detroit Pistons up into 4th? Let's do it. I don't think they're going to make it, but still. 7 on the trot is unreal. Meanwhile, the team below them, 29 and 31, is the Orlando Magic. Talk about a team that's just completely fallen off a cliff since Jalen Suggs went out. It's amazing. It's like, we lose Paolo. A readjustment period. We're okay now. We lose Franz. Crap. Readjustment period. We're okay now. We get Paolo back. We lose Jalen Suggs. Fuck. It's all gone to shit. It's so bad. They just can't shoot. They've got no shooting. They're 29 and 31. Pour one out for Orlando. Hopefully they get Suggs back soon and it actually sort of all comes together again, but yeesh, it is brutal. Atlanta, 27 and 31. They're feeling very much in that sort of position of like, so 6, 7, 8, and 9. Detroit have put a little bit of space between them. There's 4 games between Detroit and Orlando, right? They're 4 games up on Orlando. And they've played 58 games. Like, it's just, I'm just saying, that's 4 is a lot to sort of pull back. And then you've got Orlando, the Hawks, and the Heat in the 7, 8, 9 spots, all kind of interchangeable. But you obviously want the 7 seed. You want a home court just to knock that like play-in seeding away and just try to get your 7 spot. The Hawks are 1 game back of them, and then the Heat are also basically 1 game back of the Magic because they've played less games. They've only played the 56, so they're 26 and 30. But that's an interesting triumvirate, isn't it? Orlando, Atlanta, Miami. It also feels kind of like they'd be all roadkill for both the Cavs and the Celtics. But I feel like Orlando will at least be a fun one for Boston. That'd be a great fun matchup, I reckon. Give me more power. Then at number 9, obviously the Heat, 26 and 30, 4 games under 500. The Bulls, a ridiculous 23 and 35, but almost by default are in the 10 seed. They're not even trying. They're like, we've traded Levine, we've traded DeMar. Well, we've let DeMar go. Like, whatever. We've just given the car keys to Josh Giddey, and off we go. They won that last game. It was awesome. Giddey's been crushing it. 3 straight games of 20-plus points. They're still 23 and 35. It's just blah. The Nets are 21 and 36, which is also hilarious because they're only 1.5 games out of the play-in, and they're trying to tank. The Sixers, not trying to tank. They're 20 and 37, and now 2.5 games out of the 10 spot. This is why the Sixers season is a disaster and why they should sit Joel Embiid and probably Paul George and just go F it. We owe a top 7 protected pick. Basically, we have to finish in the top 6 of the lottery to have a crack to keep our pick this year and get ourselves a little bit of help. And currently, at 20 and 37, that is the 6th worst record in the NBA. That's remarkable. The Sixers, what are you doing? Toronto at 18 and 40. If the Sixers keep tanking, Toronto probably will catch them. They're 3 and 7 in their last 10. They're very feisty at home where they're 13 and 19. They're 5 and 21 on the road, the Canadians. Brutal. Charlotte, 14 and 43. That is a basket case, as I mentioned earlier. 131 points in the last 3 games. They've lost by ridiculous. And the Wizards are 10 and 47 in the driver's seat for Cooper Flag. So the interesting things there, 7, 8, 9, obviously, for the play-in seeding. Who snags that 10 spot? Bulls, Nets, Sixers. Bulls in the driver's seat only by 1.5 games. And then really, 4, 5, 6. There is only like that one game sort of separating the Pacers, Bucks, and Pistons. So we'll see what happens there. Out west, way out west, where the Thunder, Oklahoma City, 46-11, feeling very, 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 very good. Best point differential in the NBA, looking pretty good. Copped an absolute shellacking in that last stanza yesterday. Blowing a 24, 25-point lead is just unforgivable. They've got an incredible defense, then stop somebody. They do have an incredible defense, though. Number one in the NBA. 46-11, OKC feeling good. They have basically locked away the 1 seed. So, yeah, that's good. They're 8.5 games ahead of the Grizzlies and the Nuggets, who are both 38-20. Nugs have these moments where they look amazing. And the tricky part is the Nugs, they have these moments, right? So, they're only 13-14 against teams who are above 500. So they're feasting on the shit teams, struggling against the good ones. The same thing is happening with Memphis. They're 13-17, right? Compare that to the Lakers, who are 16-12 against teams who are over 500, or the Rockets, who are 21-15. I'm saying that just tells you a story. The Clippers are 12-19. That's a disaster. But Lakers, Warriors, OKC. Only teams above 500 against 500 teams in the West. Just saying, keep an eye on that. So, yes, Memphis feeling pretty good. They just need a clear runway. So did Denver, actually, just of health into the playoffs, and they'll feel pretty good about themselves. But at the same time, just keep that in the back of your head, that over 500 record. Because the Lakers are good. They're 35-21, and I hate it so much. They could easily get up to the 2 seed at this rate. So they are 2 games behind the Grizz and the Nugs, right? 35-21. They've played less games somehow. They did have to move a couple around because of the fires, of course. But still, 35-21. The other teams obviously played 58 games. Yep. These guys have played 56. So they're 2 games back. You just win a couple of games. If these other dudes are losing them, here we go. The Lakers are right in there for the 2 seed. And it hurts my heart. They've got Luka Doncic. They've got shit like it's amazing. And I don't know how much this has been sort of bashed on about. It's like, oh, they've got ball handlers all the time. It's amazing. It's like, yeah. It's also like the Mavs were built around Luka. The Lakers are built around LeBron, which is essentially like the same kind of thing. So you have never a moment really where you don't have an idealized version of what you want to be doing out there on offense. The big problem is always going to be their defense, but if they have a healthy DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Jared Vanderbilt, they're laughing. The Rockets, 36-22 at 5. Good win today against the Bucks. They desperately need more of these quality wins down the stretch, but in terms of strength of schedule remaining, they're feeling pretty good about themselves. So let's go Rockets. Clippers just leaving me a bit, I don't know, cold. They've lost 3 on the trot. They're 31-26 in the 6th spot. Then you have the Wolves at 32-27 after a nice little run there. That was a huge OKC comeback. So inconsistent though, but they are basically tied, 15 games back of the Thunder. They've played 1 less game than the Wolves though. The Wolves and the Warriors are basically, right there. Whereas the Wolves have played more games than the Clippers and the Warriors have played 1 less game than the Wolves, right? So they're in the 8th spot. Luka is up there on the Lakers, feeling good, feeling great, trying to get a 2 seed. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler, and they're feeling very good about themselves, having won 4 straight. What are they, 5-1 with him? They've got Taron Armstrong now as well, just saying the secret weapon. That might be his nickname now, the secret weapon. Don't mind this. But really, the Warriors are a real threat to move up to at least the 6th spot. Because the Clippers, Wolves, and Warriors are only separated by a half game. They are also only a half game ahead of the Mavs, so you've got to keep your eyes on that. So Warriors, 31-27, feeling pretty good about themselves. Wolves, especially with how inconsistent they are. I reckon the Warriors jump them, and if not, the Clippers too. Bit weird, but here we are. The Dallas Mavericks, 31-28. They're a half game behind the Warriors in the 9 spot. 1 game up on the Kings, but more importantly, 3.5 games up on the Suns. So it feels like the Mavs, they're just going to be happy making the play-in. But they also just want to make sure that they get healthy and get their big dudes back before this play-in run, and then they reckon they can make a run. Don't know how, that could actually happen. Like, AD has to come back at full strength. I don't know if that's going to happen. The Kings are 29 and 28, above 500 in the 10 spot. The Suns are 27 and 31 and 11, and just looking like a basket case. They're 2 and 8 in their last 10. It's brutal. The Blazers are fun, 25 and 33. They've won 2 on the trot. They just keep beating teams. They're just going, yeah, maybe. Let's have a go. The Spurs are now down to 24 and 32 after losing Wemby and losing 3 on the trot. The Pelicans are a feisty 15 and 43. Don't mind this for the Pelicans. Just call it a written-off season. Get some help for Zion and away you go. And Utah, 14 and 43 at the bottom of the West. Right. So, some yeah-nahs out of all of this. Keep this in mind in the standings. Do you believe in the 40-20 rule? Yeah, nah. Yes, I do. What is it? 37 of the last 41 NBA titles have been won by teams that won 40 games before they lost 20. Which means only Cleveland, Boston, and OKC are your title contenders this year. But, I mean, the Grizzlies and the Nuggets came pretty close but lost their 20th games the other day. So did the Knicks. They came kind of close, 37-20, 38-20, 38-20. But, I don't know. It feels like those three are, like, probably in the prime seat. And I still probably feel like Boston are the best chance. But I think it does obviously lay down just the very obvious that you're a fucking juggernaut if you're winning 40 games before you lose 20. And these guys have done it in a canter. I do think it's a little bit squishy, though, when you look at a team like the Lakers who make a massive trade and already 35 and 21. But then their recent form is absolutely flying. And if you keep an eye on, like, you know, if they keep beating teams above 500, hell yeah. They're feeling pretty good. So I still feel like Denver has a puncher's chance. The Lakers probably have a puncher's chance. Grizzlies not so convinced, but geez, it's pretty fun. Should AD have gotten a tribute video? Yeah, nah, yeah. He won a title. Look, that's the sort of general rule. If you won a title with a team, you are ingrained in their history forever. Like, that's kind of a thing, right? It's, what was it? Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry didn't get ones from the Heat. And their rule is basically, like, if you didn't make an all-star team, an all-NBA team, or win a title, fuck off. Love that. Love that. AD tribute, hell yeah. Good on him. And was that the best revenge game from Luka? Well, that game that we saw from Luka. Yeah, nah. It was pretty good. He didn't shoot great. He did have a triple-double, though, so it's pretty good. There's a few interesting ones out there, too, that are pretty gnarly. James Harden had 46, I think, against... was it OKC when he went back against them the first time? Even Dominic Wilkins back in the olden days, he ripped one off against Atlanta after he got traded to the Clippers. He had 36 and 10 when he was old as hell. So that was pretty cool. Clyde Drexler did it as well against Portland when he was on Houston. He had, 24, 10, and 6. That's not as good as Luka's, but AI ripped off a 30 and 9 when he was in Denver against the Philly Sixers. James Harden, when he was in Houston, having basically going up against the Nets, which is pretty funny. He had 29 and 14 for Brooklyn. Cat had 32, 20, and 6 against the Wolves at the start of this season. It's pretty fun. But yeah, the 46 for Harden against, I think, OKC when he was on Houston is pretty bloody good. But I love that one from Luka. That was absolutely unreal. All right, unpopular opinion of the day.
Now look at me, please. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
The Woj phone thing. Isn't that just a bit weird? It's like, I get it, but if you're at a party, and it's obviously going to be some rich fuckhead that you're just like, this fucking dude, he's going to have good booze, let's go. And it's like, I don't know, on a wall, in a fucking sconce, I don't know, what do rich people have? And it's just there. And it's like, does it have a plaque? Woj's phone. You're like, that's Woj's phone when he was breaking news on the internet. It's like, all right. Sure. Have you used it? Like, what are we doing here? It's weird. Anyway, but good on Woj for doing that. Trying to get that NIL money, but still, a bit strange. And finally, a bit of Outback Bloody Takehouse. It's Wednesday at Outback, and you know what that means? Oh, yeah, taking the squids on a hot day down to daycare and school this morning. You see the bloody possums just getting home, and so you give them the old quick back. That's right, you give the squids a couple of sticks, beat the possums to death, Tenders them up really nicely as well. Just chuck them over the spit when you get home. Boom. Spit roasted possum. And it's only an Outback. Today's flame grilled take is, if LeBron wins a fucking title at age 40 as the second best player on a team, it's almost unimpeachable that he's better than Kobe. And it does give him a pretty interesting fucking argument against MJ. And now it's actual reality. It fucking shits me up the wall. Only at Outback. I mean, if he ends up with 5 and he's riding Luka's coattails, we've still got an awesome. Yeah, MJ never fucking played second fiddle to anyone. He never had to ride somebody else's glory, and I agree with that, but still, anyway. It does set us up. I just don't want the Lakers to win, but wow. Nico Harrison would go down as the biggest fucking idiot of all time. And Luka would be like, well, that was easy. What the fuck was I doing in Dallas for 7 years? Jeez. Been doing it all wrong. All right, let's take a quick break. Be back with the Australian Player Watch right after Hammer.
This is Shane Heel, and you're listening to NBA Straya.
All right, time for NBA Straya's daily Australian Player Watch for a very, very chockers Wednesday, February 26 all day. Few Aussies in action today. Let's start with our man Rock'em Sock'em Block'em Jock'em Landale. That's right, he got out there for 9 minutes against the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee, it's Algonquin for the good land. 197, they win that game. Awesome game. Unfortunately, Jock goes 0 of 4 from the floor, 0 of 1 from downtown, 1 rebound, 1 foul. That's all he managed. Bit of a tough one for the Rooster. Outside of that, we saw Josh Green against Golden State as they got their heads kicked in again. 128-92. It was brutal. Josh Green had 6 points, however. He managed 2 of 4 from the floor. They were both threes that he goes 2 of 3 from downtown. 3 assists, a rebound, a steal, and a block. Interestingly enough, Josh Green, not the problem. He was a minus 14. That's the second best of the Hornets. That's how bad they were. It's brutal there in Charlotte, I'll tell you. Outside of this, we also had Dante Exum, Kangaroo Kobe, up against the Lakers. Obviously going against his old mucker, Luka Doncic. He played 11 minutes, does Dante. It was a bit of a weird one because he started off very, very rough. 1 of 6 from the floor. Finishes actually 3 of 9 and 2 of 7 from downtown overall. So he ends up with 8 points in the 11 minutes to go with 3 rebounds and an assist. And he also copped a pretty big hit late in that game. So hopefully he's all good and recovers all okay from that. Outside of that, no Luke Travers for the Cavs against Orlando. And that should basically be all the Aussies for today. It was a bit light on the ground, wasn't it? Fun day in the NBA, but need more Aussies going out there. There you go. Anyway, you can stay up to date with all things NBA every day with NBA Straya.
Great moments in NBA Straya stat history.
All right. Mentioned this one before at the start. We had a great post about the GOAT. They went up yesterday. So I was going to read this one yesterday. We'll just put absolute punish for time. But we had another one go up today as well about Patty Mills. Go check that out. But anyway, let's do it. NBA Australia, never forget. 26 years ago today, Andrew Gazy Gaze, a.k.a. the Aussie GOAT, a.k.a. Air Gaze, a.k.a. the Grey Mamba, strapped on his Kmart Signature Edition Dunlop Gazy ones for his 6th ever game for the San Antonio Spurs. And after roughly 80,000 buckets in the NBL, finally scored his first NBA points in over 6 years. That's right, the Grey Mamba finally got the hoop wet in a blowout Spurs win over Jim's beloved Sonics. In a single minute that was better than the entirety of Josh Bootsma's career, Gazy put in more hard yakka than a Queanbeyan traffic cop after summer nats. Like a combo of Don Bradman, Dawn Fraser and Maccabi Diva. And only 60 seconds flat, the Grey Mamba ended up with 3 points and 1 assist. Now, I'm no scientician, and stats are for nerds. But by my calculation, if Air Gazy had played a typical 36 minutes, he would have had 108 points and 36 assists. Just per 36 right there, I'm just saying. Gazy still led the Spurs to an NBA title later that year, but Pop choosing to barely play the all-time Aussie GOAT was a worse decision than the jokers at Channel 10 cancelling Cheese TV. Just the NBA's all-pervasive anti-Australian bias at work, I reckon. On you, the Grey Mamba. There you go. There is your NBA Australia. Great moment in NBA Australia stats history. It was pretty crazy. It took him 6 games to get to actually making a bucket when he was out there for the Spurs back in '99, but very, very cool. It was really fun having him on the show. If you haven't heard that one, go back and dig up the episode 1000 with Gazy. It was a great chat. All right. Let's do a quick Paddy Mills Game Day, Baller Game Day Twitter check-in, and this one's an easy one because I'm already pre-angry. All right. Paddy Mills clearly owns a bit of a share in the Old Mates pub in New York. And he did a blind ranking of Australian beers. And I don't think I've ever been more angry. Who puts Great Northern at number 1? Anyway, he's got Carlton Draft at 6. Sure. Little Creatures Pale Ale at 3. Bolter XPA at 4. That's an outrage. That is an absolute cracking beer. 4X at 2. That is just gross. What are you doing? VB at 7. Han Superdry at 5. What the hell? Great Northern number 1. And then 2 is new at 8. We can all get on board with that one. But yeah, good one from Paddy. Enjoyed that. That was a great little clip. I might have to do that myself. Right, let's do some game previews for tomorrow. Game previews. Game previews. Thanks, Inadvertent Bane. Not a problem, Jim. How's it all going? Oh, yeah. Oh, keeping on. I guess. She'll be right. Anyway, let's do some previews. We absolutely smashed the picks today. If you listened to yesterday's show, I think we went 7 of 7. Because I think the line when we got the Lakers was 7.5. It moved to 8.5 this morning when I actually put money on it. Or else I would have gone 7 of 7 and you probably would not have seen me today because I would have made a lot of money. But anyway, good times there. As mentioned, don't worry about the links for the minute or following on where I was telling you. Just, I'll have a new one for you ASAP. And you can jump on that one, all right? So you can follow all of the picks along there still though. Right, let's do this one. Thursday, fun slate. Boston at Detroit. The Pistons are 4.5-point underdogs at home. I kind of think they can play this Boston team hard. The Celtics on a back-to-back. Detroit at home. They're feisty. They've won 7 on the trot. They probably lose, but I think they get this one really, really close. So I'm going to go Detroit plus 4.5. Like, you can easily see this one being like a 102.98 or something, right? Let's go Detroit. Indy host Toronto. Yeah, pour one out for the Raptors. As I mentioned, their road record is absolutely abysmal. What was it? It was like something horrible. Yeah, 5-21. That's like Charlotte Hornets territory. So, Indy 9.5-point favorites. I'm going to go Indy, who is 16-9 at home. It's pretty good. Love the Pacers in that one. Philly host the Knicks. The Sixers probably know Joel Embiid for this one, right? After it's like, we'll keep looking at his knee and see what we keep thinking. Do we shut him down? Maybe. Probably. The Knicks are 9.5-point favorites. They're at home. I think they kill Philly. It's like, pour one out for like their defense is just that good. It's the second best defense in the NBA. And, I think the third actually. Yeah, because I think Boston are ahead of them. Actually, it might be the fourth. Wait, there might even be more. I don't know about. I have to check the defensive efficiency ratings. I might even do that right now. Because at the moment, the Knicks aren't anywhere near there. So anyway, let's have a look. Oh, jeez. Let's go to advanced stats and see what they've got. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jeez, the Knicks. What's happened? That's brutal. They're down in 20. Ugh. In defensive rating, but points per game, they're still up there. Anyway, 9.5-point favorites. I'm still going to take the Knicks at home. I think they just run roughshod over Philly. They've just looked absolutely abysmal. Like, they got killed by fucking Chicago. Portland host Washington. Sorry, Portland go to Washington. That's a tough one. Because, I mean, the Wizards were pretty handy the other day. Plus 5.5 at home, though. The Blazers just have a little bit too much talent. And I just like them in general because they're fun. Simons, Sharp, Donovan Clingan. I think they're way too good. Give me the Portland Trailblazers 5.5-point underdogs. Favorites, rather. OKC go to Brooklyn. bit of a tough one. Brooklyn is 17.5-point underdogs at home. I think I'm going to take Brooklyn. They're bad. OKC blew that stupid Wolves game. I'll just take the 17.5 points. Brooklyn just sort of stick around. They'll probably get beaten by 20, but I don't know. Especially at home. Let's go to the Nets. Miami host Atlanta. This is a crazy game. As I talked about earlier in the standings check, the 7, 8, 9 spots, right? This is a huge double win game. You slap the other team with a loss. You get a W. I'm going to go the Heat -1.5. You know that the Great Barrier Thief, Dyson Daniels, will be out there trying to clamp. You want me to use these clamps? Our man Tyler, there goes my hero. But I think Miami at home will just be a little bit too tough for this really janky, at times, Atlanta team. Atlanta can't stop anybody, and I feel like outside of Dyson Daniels, right, they keep just playing these games to go to 140. I think Miami might get them at home. Clippers, Chicago. How good is this game? Because you got Patty Mills and Ben Simmons on one side. Giddy up! Josh Giddey on the other. Clippers are 7.5-point favorites in Chicago. Clippers, as I mentioned earlier, tend to beat teams under 500. That's how they're doing okay. Chicago, look, they tend to keep losing, but they did win that last one. Just think the Clippers' defense and scoring potential is probably a little bit too good for the Bulls. We'll go the Clippers -7.5. Just, you know that Harden, Kawhi, if he's out there as well, Norm will all be dropping bombs. I just don't know if Chicago can really stick with it. Sacramento, Utah. Look, the Kings, a little bit more improved the other day, but the size of Utah might be a bit of a pain in the ass for them. So I'm going to go the Jazz at home, +8.5. They've sort of just got like those janky games every so often where it clicks and you're like, God damn, that was good. And the Kings, not exactly defensive juggernauts, right? This will be a bit of a shootout, I'd say. I reckon Utah can stick with them. And then finally, San Antonio host. Well, they go to Houston. I keep getting these back to front today. Why am I reading them wrong? San Antonio go to Houston. It's an all-Texas affair. Let's go. Houston just sneaked by the Bucks today in a crazy fun game. The Spurs are +9.5 on the road in Houston. They lose to the Pelicans today. Houston is substantially better. They're at home. Chris Paul goes back to Houston. I might take San Antonio +9.5. Houston are just a little bit unpredictable. At the same time, so is San Antonio. Yes. We're going to talk this one out. Oh, yeah. Look, San Antonio did get their heads kicked in by the Pelicans the game before this other game against the Pelicans and the Pistons. So, yeah, I think we might have to go with the Rockets -9.5 there. It's a fun slate. What is that? 9 games? I reckon today's slate of 7 is almost like, if we're not going to have like 15, 7 is just right. Sort of gets through to like the big focus at the end. You had 2 games going concurrently towards the end. But it was just a nice stagger. But either way. Right, that'll do us for today. There's your standings check-in. That's a whole bunch of other stuff. I have some, as I mentioned, a bunch of the Aussies in action today. That'll be fun. Or tomorrow, rather. So we'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, make sure you're following NBA Australia on Twitter, Facebook, IG, TikTok, and YouTube. We're all over the socials. You know that. Get around NFL Australia as well with myself and Gaz. Gaz, Eagles fan. We finally found him. Chucked the microphone in front of him and had a chat about basically his partying after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It's a good one. Check us, rate and review on your Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube Music, whatever app you're using on the Android phone. Look, rate, review, star, subscribe, all comment. Jump on the YouTube and leave some comments. Chuck your yeah, nahs up there. Ask away. Go nuts. It really does help. Get around from Oslo. They're behind the intro and outro song, as well as House Hats, Joshua De Laurentiis, Fascinated, Gold Mines, Ramshackle Army, iOS Extra, Green, and Dozers. They're behind all the tunes you hear throughout the show. Smash them all on wherever you listen to your tunes. NBA Australia Sports Australia Bands. Also, new Dear Seattle album coming out. Oh, that's already out. Out at the start of this year. That was awesome. Did say that Super Heaven have got a new album coming out. I'm fucking stoked on that. I love that band. They broke up when I was living in the States, so I never got to see them. I think. Anyway, I think they're from Philly. Anyway, I remember hanging out with Violent Soho and just like chatting to Luke about it. And it's just like, he's like, who? I'm like, Super Heaven. They kind of sound like you guys, but I don't know, a bit fuzzier and a little bit noise rockier. And he's like, interesting. And then it turns out they'd broken up like 2 weeks earlier. I felt like such a dick. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll be back on deck tomorrow. We will catch you then, you dickheads. This is NBA Australia saying, look after yourselves, would you? And revenge! Later, hosen.